Welcome back to another build order tutorial. This time I have a great Terran versus Zerg build order for you guys. This is such a standard macro build that gives you everything you need to learn how to play Terran versus Zerg and lets you build off of it if you ever want to change up the build a little bit. It's a basic Stim with Liberator Harassment 3cc macro build shown to us by one of the top non-Korean Terrans. It is special. So let's go ahead and watch him execute this build about as perfectly as possible, and we'll try to replicate that. So start off with the depot. Barracks. Refinery. Saturate that refinery. When your barracks is done, build a Reaper and an Orbital command center. At 400 minerals, plant that CC. Get a supply depot. Marine. Factory. Second refinery. Reactor on the barracks. Swap the factory with the barracks. Get a starport. Get the orbital at the natural command center. Start building Hellions and one more Marine. Supply depot. Tech Lab on the barracks. Start the Liberator. Another supply depot. From here on out, just try not to get supply blocked. Start Stim. Swap the factory off the reactor. At 400 minerals, grab your third CC. Another supply depot. Two barracks go down at home while you try to harass with your units on the front lines. Special goes ahead and sacks his Hellions. Probably not the best move he made. Why don't you go ahead and try and keep your Hellions alive and just do what you can with the Liberator. Reactor on the Starport and a Tech Lab on the factory. Double engineering base. Swap the Starport off that reactor. Get double refineries of the natural and another reactor on the Starport. Swap the barracks to the open reactor, and then grab 2 more barracks. Start your 1-1 upgrades, and saturate those refineries. Get your orbital at the 3rd command center. Start combat shields. In this replay, Special went ahead and got a single Widow Mine, but he actually doesn't use his factory for too long. Start Medivac production. Take your 3rd, and then now you can start your tank production, or if you prefer, you could have gone into Widow Mines with a reactor on that factory. Be prepared to move out as your Medivacs finish up. Get 2 reactors on the barracks that just finished. And you should be pushing with the double drop of Medivacs. Careful not to actually lose them. This is just really for creep denial. Get an Armory as your upgrades hit the 50-60% mark. In this replay, Special lost a lot of SCVs to a Ling run by, but you actually should be getting saturated just about now. Should be constantly producing, tank, 9 Marines, 2 Medivacs, and trying to keep the creep spread at bay. Start your 2-2 as soon as the Armory is done and you have the resources. And at this point, start moving forward to your opponent's base with an actual push, all your army going forward with the tanks that were built. Around 8 minutes is what you are shooting for, either with a single tank or preferably 2 tanks. And that is about it. Just continue macroing, getting your upgrades, eventually getting a 4th CC and 3 extra barracks and another factory as well. On to the build discussion. The strengths of this build, well, there's plenty of them. It's a strong macro build. It just is. It's good. It's good stuff. Allows you to focus on macro with a little harassment included. So if you want to try and be super Gosu and go for the harassment and kill a bunch of drones, okay, go ahead, sure, but really you should be focusing on getting your macro down as close to perfect as you possibly can. The Hellions and the Liberator are actually even more so for scouting than harassment. It has a strong double drop timing. As we saw, Special is allowed to use his Medivacs to good effort trying to deny that creep spread, and that's what you want to do too. Try and find the queens. The core TvZ build that can be changed easily. So the 1-1-1 after the CC into a 3rd CC, that's just, it's like 90% of TvZs. And then it's very easy to adapt if you want to decide to go and learn a Hellbat build or a Banshee build. You can grab an early tank to help defend against early pushes. So while this is the stock standard macro build, it really doesn't have a lot of weaknesses to the early rushes if they are scouted, and that's kind of the that's the rub there, is getting the scout. Weaknesses. As an overall standard build, it doesn't really have many weaknesses. Swapping the factory off means no more emergency Hellions, so let's talk about this a fair bit, but you're going to go for 6 Hellions and then no more Hellions, and you decide to sacrifice them, or perhaps they're just surrounded. Some Zergs do intentionally make about 40 Lings to try and deny those 6 Hellions. while going for an immediate counter that can really screw up your build. You got to keep those alive, even if your macro is perfect, because there's going to be a gap of time where you just do not have enough Marines to stop a Ling swell. So just focus on keeping the Hellions alive. You don't have backup ones. It struggles more against unscattered roach pushes than a Banshee build, for instance. Now, the Banshee build isn't totally immune to everything. You can still be surprised, but it does still provide that consistent air damage to the ground, rather, that the Zerg player usually doesn't think they deal with it. You know, sometimes there are still some Zerg Queen-based all-ins with roaches, but that doesn't really happen too much anymore. Against this build, you will struggle. So you got to keep an eye out. You got to be paying attention to how many drones are on that third base. You got to be on the edges of the creep, constantly looking for units that are coming across the map. And that Liberator might be also able to scout some earlier tech structures like a Roche Warren or a Fast Lair. Tips and tricks. Your Hellions can be used to harass, but be wary. Without Hellions, your barracks production will not be enough to stop large Ling swells for a time. I already went over that, just really gotta drive it home. That's gonna be a weak point. If you can't control Hellions, just keep them at home. Or only use one to scout, right? Because that's what really they're there for. I'd prefer you keeping them safe with very limited scouting than losing them and then not having anything back at home and then also getting kerfluffled because you weren't macroing, and just focus on the macro, focus on the basics. And that's the other point. Focus on keeping your Hellions Liberator alive and perfect your macro. Just keep them alive and get that macro down. The double drop / push isn't really meant to end the game. Push creep back and be careful. The more confident you get, the better you'll be at finding those weaknesses even with the first 2 Medivac drops. If you're even Platinum League and you do this build absolutely perfectly, you're probably going to find a lot of easy wins with the first 16 Marines that you send across the map. But if you're not building anything back at home, you'll probably still lose if the Zerg has anything left over. So the point is, work on your macro. Wood mines or tanks, it's your choice. If you're up against roaches, definitely advise tanks. If you're up against Ling Bane, Ling Hydra, or Ling Bane Muta, I advise Widow Mines. But really, it's your choice. I actually do tanks against that as well. It's up to you. And that just about does it. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful time laddering with this very standard build. I think you guys will like it if you're looking to play the game for the first time, or maybe you're swapping to Terran and you're the type that just wants to get good. This is the build you want to get. If you want to have fun, go find a 3-Rax Reaper or 2-Rax Proxy or something like that. This is the build to use to get better. So I hope it helps you guys.